Howdy folks, and welcome back to Marvelous Anime. One Punch Man is an extremely popular manga series created by a mangaka who simply goes by the name One. The series would be adapted into anime in 2014, resulting in its popularity skyrocketing amongst fans. Over the years, this series has become a cult classic due to its parodying the superhero genre and society itself in many ways. We follow the adventures of a disenchanted, bald superhero named Saitama who trained so hard that all his hair fell out. The trade-off is that he now has acquired the power to defeat any foe with just a single punch. The manga and webcomics for the series have sold over 40 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling anime and manga series of all time. In Saitama's quest for stronger opponents, he's come across a variety of villains who all fall in front of our bald crusader. In today's video, we'll be discussing one of the strongest antagonists in the series to ever cross his path. Of course, we're talking about Orochi, the leader of the monsters organization and the individual who calls himself the King of Monsters. In the world of One Punch Man, few characters embody sheer terror and psychological complexity like Orochi. Engineered through a grotesque blend of science and forced evolution, Orochi is not just a monster, he's a living weapon forged for a singular purpose of spreading death and destruction while dominating all life. Yet, Orochi is not a mindless beast because despite his fearsome appearance, he retains a shrewd and calculating brain that allows him to pursue his goals with the accuracy of a tactical genius. He's a monster with a mind that makes him a terrifying threat, capable of thinking, learning, and adapting to every foe and situation he's presented with. So hop on in as we dissect everything there is to know about this ultimate being, from his origins to his powers and even his final form. We're going to leave no stone unturned. Born a man, sculpted by madness and perfected through his monstrous metamorphosis, this is the anatomy of the creature they call Orochi. Let's begin. Origin and early days. The birth of a monster. Long before he terrorized the universe as the indomitable and fearsome Monster King Orochi, he was just an ordinary man. He was described as a guy who was already broken by his creator, Psychos, when she met him in his human days. However, we think she might have meant broken in the sense of his beliefs about society and perhaps even his own body, because Orochi was definitely not broken in terms of willpower. He was most likely a social misfit and an outcast who harbored a strong contempt for society, which he felt had abandoned him. This granted him the burning willpower he needed to gain the necessary power to avenge himself, no matter the cost. Thanks to Psychos' experiments and tinkering with his body and mind, he eventually began to transform to the monster that we know him as today. He went through intense and inhumane experiments orchestrated by Psychos that resulted in a brutal transformation fueled by monster cell transfusions, the cannibalization of other monsters, and intense psychological torture. This not only reshaped his body, it also destroyed his humanity completely. The procedure was so effective that Psychos considered him to be her greatest creation, one that would not only outgrow her control but also surpass her own powers. Shortly after his transformation, Orochi is installed as the undisputed king of monsters and the leader of the monsters organization. He functions as the primary brawn of the organization, keeping others in check through his sheer power and intimidation. While Gyoro acts as the brains of the operation, his deceit is revealed much later when we find out that he was merely allowing Gyoro to have the illusion of control while he grew more powerful in secret, eventually becoming the de facto leader of the organization. His origins are a cautionary tale regarding ambition and dehumanization, as his identity is the first thing that's devoured by his monstrous nature. While not an entirely tragic character, he is intriguing and has a unique place in the One Punch Man mythos. What defines Orochi's personality? Well, initially, we're made to believe that Orochi is just another powerful monster that needs another's brains to guide his brawn. As the story progresses, we learn that this could not be further from the truth. In Orochi, we find an individual who's not just powerful because of his immeasurable strength and abilities, but also because of his cunning and strategic acumen. Upon delving deeper, his personality reveals a mix of primal brutality and existential curiosity. He craves domination and supremacy above all, and as the leader of the Monster Association, his presence demands fear and submission to keep the hundreds of monsters under him in check. This is why he displays a stern and merciless disposition to drive home the fact that he's the alpha of the pack. For him, power isn't just a means to an end, but identity itself. However, we can also look at his obsession with power and control as stemming from a fragile ego and deep-seated insecurity. Orochi is also known as a creature of very few words who lets his actions do the talking. Many felt that this was because he had been brainwashed into becoming the puppet of his creator, Psychos. For all intents and purposes, it was made to appear that Psychos was the brains behind the operation, and Orochi intentionally allowed the illusion to endure, fooling even his own creator in the process. Due to his appearance, many individuals immediately assume his intelligence to be that of a beast's as well, but little do they know they're making a fatal error in judgment. Psychos herself has described Orochi as a fighting genius, a title that very few can claim for themselves in One Punch Man. Further, he immediately recognizes Saitama's true power and doesn't disregard him based on his appearance. Upon merely coming into contact with Saitama, he deduces a fair number of things, like the fact that Saitama was the one responsible for defeating both Goketsu and Elder Centipede without even exchanging a word, highlighting his insane deductive abilities. He's also displayed a somewhat human side to his personality by showing that he doesn't kill prey indiscriminately. In fact, we see Orochi even showing keen interest in certain individuals like Goketsu, to whom he offers even greater power as a monster in exchange for his fealty. He shows a similar interest and leniency towards Garu, asking him to kill only one hero to prove himself. Orochi, of course, self-contradicts this nature of his by killing his other subordinates at a whim. After discovering an altar with his mural in it, Orochi develops an even bigger sense of self, believing himself to be the chosen deity of this world. He begins to believe that in exchange for a worthy sacrifice, he would be able to attain godhood, and settles on Saitama as this worthy sacrifice. Eventually, his delusions of grandeur become his ultimate undoing. One can attribute this to him having a fragmented sense of self, as everything that he is was a construct created by Psychos, and no matter how much agency Orochi took back from his creator, he would never be truly free. Therefore, he increasingly sought to become the strongest there is in search of meaning for his existence. As you can see, Orochi is an amalgamation of complex layers that elevate him from being just a mere monster. What does Orochi look like? Orochi's physical appearance is among the most visually striking in One Punch Man. There is, however, a purpose to its design beyond merely grabbing the audience's attention. His physical appearance is meant to reflect both his monstrous strength and symbolic role as the pinnacle of the Monster Association's hierarchy. Orochi's body is massive, incorporating elements of serpents, dragons, and other classic monsters. He towers over all other characters as if asserting his dominance over all life forms, just like the sheer scale of his size makes him terrifying to behold. His torso is vaguely humanoid, but with beast-like limbs and extensions. Orochi has multiple arms and tendrils that move with unnatural fluidity, considering his gargantuan size. His muscular physique is purely functional and is not designed for aesthetic appeal. His grotesque and gargantuan size emphasizes his unnatural evolution, a being forged through mutation and not growth. Orochi's body is covered in multiple spikes and horns, most notably on his head, back, and limbs. These horns resemble both dragon scales and demonic features, symbolizing his role as the king of monsters. This is further reinforced by the fact that his head is crowned by multiple sets of twisted horns, giving the impression of the corrupted deity that he aspires to be and the infernal king that he is. These horns hearken to both the Western and Eastern inspirations behind his design, as he incorporates both Western draconic features alongside more traditional Japanese Oni themes. Another callback to the mythological inspiration for his design is the Japanese monster Yamato no Orochi, who even shares his name. Just like the multi-headed dragon from the myths, Orochi can spout numerous snake or dragon-like heads from his body, which are semi-autonomous and can attack simultaneously. These heads are sometimes referred to as dragon heads and can function as additional limbs in combat. Speaking of his head, one could argue that the most unsettling part of his appearance is his face. Orochi's face evokes fear through the use of unnatural symmetry, which is a common design philosophy in horror. He has a dark circular head with large round eyes and several tentacles protruding from his head. Orochi is also possessed with a reptilian mouth with sharp, uneven teeth that can unhinge and stretch just like a snake's to either fire energy beams or consume his prey. Orochi looks almost human, but disturbingly wrong. He's also able to unravel his body to transform it into a writhing mass of dragons, limbs, and fangs, and back again to a humanoid form at will. We see him display this ability when he transforms into his humanoid form during fights with Garu. In contrast, against Saitama, he turns into a mass of draconic heads and flames. We can say that Orochi's physical appearance is not just a mere design choice, it also screams of his inhumanity and unnatural creation, which are core features of him as a character. Physical attributes and abilities. Immense physical strength. As we just mentioned, Orochi's size is not merely for show. Across his appearances in the franchise, he displays numerous feats of strength that are rarely matched by others. He was easily able to push through the defenses of Beaufoy's robots with relative ease. Given the way Beaufoy spoke of this encounter, one can discern how overwhelming Orochi's display of strength must have been. He defeated Goketsu, who was able to, in turn, quite easily dispatch strong heroes like Suiryu and Genos. Even after Goketsu was granted the powers of a monster, he believed Orochi to be far superior to him. Furthermore, during his fight with Garu, the hero hunter is casually able to restrain him while clearly not using his full strength. He's also shown destroying large sections of the Monster Association headquarters effortlessly. Thanks to his ability to manipulate his limbs and body parts, he's able to combine his overwhelming strength with unpredictable and multi-directional attacks. While many monsters rely on brute force alone, Orochi is different in this regard as well because, as we know, he's been described as a combat genius. His tactical genius, along with his well-honed martial arts skills, gives purpose and direction to his immense physical strength. In battle, Orochi doesn't mindlessly flail around, he crushes his opponents with strategic precision. Immense speed and reflexes. Despite his massive size and monstrous form, Orochi is incredibly swift and agile. He's able to easily react and intercept rapid-fire energy attacks, along with closing the distance between experienced S-class heroes in the blink of an eye. As another example of his immense speed, Orochi was able to strike Beaufoy's robot with his horns so quickly, the machine's self-destruct system couldn't even react in time. His agility and speed allow him to react to attacks coming from his blind side, making it seem like he has some sort of precognitive ability, while it's just him reacting thanks to his speed and agility. Normally, in anime and manga, large-scale transformations almost always come with a trade-off for a massive boost in a particular attribute or ability. More power for less speed, or an incredibly broken ability with a massive drawback. That's how things usually work, but not for Orochi. When he takes on his final form, Orochi maintains his insane speed and possibly even enhances it further. This makes him a nightmare to face, especially in close quarters where he's particularly devastating. His biggest feat in terms of speed and reflexes has to be the one he displayed during his fight with Saitama. Yes, he gets absolutely annihilated by the Bald One, but for a brief moment he manages to perceive Saitama's movement, a feat that some of even the fastest heroes aren't capable of. Orochi is a mix of speed, awareness, and explosive reaction, and not just a brutish fiend. Absorption and assimilation. Orochi's ability to absorb not just energy, but entities as well is one of the most terrifying and unique traits in One Punch Man. During his battle with Genos, he's seen absorbing Genos' high-powered incineration beams, which is one of the most devastating forms of energy he can produce. Rather than being damaged by it, Orochi draws the energy into his body, effectively nullifying the attack and using it to empower himself further. This makes him a direct counter to energy-type opponents, of which there are plenty in the One Punch Man universe. Orochi doesn't just absorb energy, he redirects or stores energy directed at him to amplify his own attacks. This isn't just limited to energy directed at him, as he's also able to absorb the energy from the core of the Earth. The process is so violent that it causes massive earthquakes and eruptions worldwide as he draws his energy from the core. After gathering enough energy, he compresses it within his body and uses it to perform one of his most deadly attacks, the Gaia Cannon. If you thought his ability to absorb energy was deadly, wait till you find out that he's also able to completely absorb living entities. It's heavily implied that Orochi is able to take on the traits and abilities of those he consumes. As Psychos had designed him to be constantly improving to become the strongest, this was a key factor built in order for him to achieve this goal. This ability makes Orochi a veritable biological weapon of war who's constantly able to absorb and evolve in order to dominate all that stands before him. He is quite literally a walking extinction event waiting to happen. It paints a disturbing picture of a villain who doesn't just fight, but feeds on each victim, making him even stronger. If not for Saitama putting him down thanks to this ability, Orochi might indeed have become the ultimate life form. Fire manipulation and creation. With most of his abilities and transformations being draconic themed, it should be of little surprise that Orochi is able to manipulate fire. This ability of his often gets overshadowed by his other attributes like his monstrous strength and his ability to absorb things, but it doesn't make it any less devastating. He can breathe fire from any of his multiple dragon heads that sprout from his body, turning him into an omnidirectional flamethrower. The sheer volume of flame that he can produce from his body allows him to turn any battlefield into a giant conflagration conflagration. For example, Gyoro was only able to survive the intensity of his flames due to a barrier they created at the right time. We got to see that the intensity of his flames was so great, they appeared as orange energy beams. Due to the scorching heat of his flames, nothing really survives in their wake, whether it's organic or inorganic matter. These flames are easily able to melt buildings and terrain, with even the rocks and concrete in the surrounding area exploding as they combust. The sheer destructive force of his flames makes us believe that they're enhanced or fused with the energy stored within him. We see an example of this during his fight with Genos, where the flames he produces are akin to incineration beams. Additionally, in certain fights, we also see his flames come with shockwaves and energy ripples, showing that they not only burn, but blast as well. We are, however, talking about Orochi here, and just like everything else in his arsenal, the flames aren't used so mundanely just to burn and incinerate. Using his insane battle acumen, he uses his flames to herd or trap opponents, forcing them into kill zones for an easy finish. Orochi's body likely contains an internal energy core or reactor that functions as a biological furnace generating scorching flames. As expected, his organs are adapted to store and expel this inferno without damaging himself. To conclude, Orochi's fire manipulation isn't just a visually cool ability, it's a lethal, adaptive, multi-purpose combat tool with deep tactical and symbolic implications. We can go so far as to say that he doesn't manipulate fire as much as he embodies it. Once again, if Saitama hadn't stopped him in his tracks, Orochi might have reduced the entire world to cinders with his undying flames. Master Martial Artist. As we've discussed his superhuman attributes and abilities, now let's turn our attention to something more grounded that further adds to his mystique as the King of Monsters. Orochi's use of the water stream rock-smashing fist is one of the most surprising and chilling demonstrations of his evolution as a monster through the course of the series. Before we analyze Orochi's use of this technique, let's briefly touch on this martial art. This is a technique created by a legendary hero called Bang, which focuses on fluid motion, the redirection of force, and continuous flowing strikes. A distinctive blue aura envelops the user when channeling this style. We first see him use this technique against the hero hunter Garu in their fight. As their battle heats up, Garu assumes the water stream rock smashing fist stance, only for Orochi to shockingly mimic the pose in an instant, demonstrating his uncanny ability to absorb or replicate his opponent's abilities in an instant. Orochi doesn't just mimic his stance, he elevates the martial arts by augmenting them with his various limbs, turning Garu's fighting style against him and ultimately defeating him. He attempts to use this technique against the Bald Crusader as well, but Saitama effortlessly dismantles his technique, knocking out the dragons and nullifying the stance before finishing Orochi off. This just makes us realize that there are several layers as to why he's referred to as a genius combatant. Metamorphosis. While all of the powers and attributes we've mentioned do make him a terrifying foe, they all pale in comparison to his Metamorphosis ability. This ability is what makes Orochi genuinely frightening both visually and practically. He can shift to his monstrous and humanoid form at will with no downtime and zero effort. When he transforms from his humanoid form to his monster form, it looks like he's unraveling into a nest of draconic protrusions all along his body. His head and face are covered in mouths, while his limbs are transformed into dragon heads with their own appendages and extremities. He displays uncanny elasticity as Orochi is able to stretch his physical form like a rubber band and contort it into any shape. After Saitama destroys his body, he's still shown to be able to manipulate and transform bits of his body around the monster's headquarters. We must also not forget that he's able to create monster cells within his body. These cells are then harvested and used to create other mysterious beings, meaning that his Metamorphosis ability allows him to be a nearly endless source for new monsters. Orochi's Metamorphosis reflects the purge of his humanity, elevating him to a literal embodiment of monstrous evolution. His shifting forms underscore his versatility, allowing him to adapt and overcome any foe that he faces. Discounting certain characters like God, Saitama, or Awakened Garu, there is quite literally no one else that can face him, as he's able to change his shape and abilities at will to counter them. How durable is the King of Monsters? One of the most terrifying assets of Orochi is his ability to tank devastating hits that would normally pulverize most other characters with ease. Even prior to his fusion with Psychos, which we'll discuss in a minute, his body was already a fortress able to survive the combined assault of Bang and Bomb using their ultimate technique with little more than a scratch. One must note that their combined might was strong enough to level buildings, and yet they inflicted next to no damage to Orochi. He has also shown incredible resistance to fire and heat, which is only natural thanks to his draconic powers and nature. Genos, during their fight, literally overloads his core to fire his true spiral spiral incineration cannon at Orochi, but his flesh simply regenerates around the blast zone while Genos is fried after the attack. Orochi's body is more than just durable. His flesh reacts as a living, self-repairing armor. If he's attacked by a certain technique or an element, he can quite literally rebuild his tissues to gain additional protection against a repeat of that attack. He can also redistribute his mass to reinforce certain weak points in his body, making him nigh invulnerable. In a fan Q&A session, Yusuke Murata said he might even have been able to survive some normal punches from Saitama, as he was originally intended to be a long-term rival for the protagonist, but this didn't come to fruition. After merging with Psychos, his durability, like everything else, reaches another level, as seen when he's able to withstand the full psychic might of Tatsumaki, which is capable of uprooting entire cities and bending tectonic plates. This insane durability of his represents an unstoppable force that continues to survive, adapt, and evolve constantly. Fusion with Psychos. After being pushed to a near-death state by Saitama, Orochi, in his desperation, begins to absorb all the monsters around him in a bid to gain more power and to regenerate himself. One of the beings that he assimilates within himself is his creator, Psychos, who's no mere slouch herself. However, Psychos resists complete assimilation, resulting in a creature that's a fusion of their wills and bodies. This union brings forth a colossal tentacled behemoth capable of such destruction that even someone like Tatsumaki is pressured into fighting with all their might. In addition to the might of their combined form, Orochi and Psychos in this form are granted additional powers from a mysterious entity called God, which further enhances them. In this form, Orochi gains a lot of new abilities, particularly from Psychos, which is further amplified by his own power. He's able to use telekinesis, which is powerful enough to invert Tatsumaki's barrier, literally turning it inside out and trapping her within as crushing gravity closes in. Oh, and did we mention that in this form, Orochi is able to control gravity in a localized area at will? He's also able to create smoke screens and manipulate electricity as well. A single attack in this form is shown slicing through the Earth's crust, lifting land and sea before slamming it down, triggering several tsunamis at once. His energy absorption skills also reach another level, with the root-like tendrils burrowing into the Earth and feeding on the life force of the planet itself. In fact, Psychos believe that by doing so, given enough time, they might become one with the Earth itself, ascending as a perfect celestial life form. Orochi's incredible durability and regeneration are also further enhanced, as they are seen being able to heal even the most grievous injuries at an alarming pace. The fusion of Psychos and Orochi is absolutely one of the most awe-inspiring and terrifying moments in the series, a clash where psychic might meets monstrous raw power. Marvelous verdict! Orochi stands as a testament to the chilling synthesis of biology mixed with brutality through his anatomy, which is a constantly shifting arsenal. His mind is a relic of human ambition buried beneath layers of monstrous intent that have been forced upon him. Every single part of his body, from his tendrils, his scales, and his molten veins, serves a purpose, evolving not just to kill, but to adapt, dominate, and survive. In him, One Punch Man doesn't just present a villain, it presents a question: how much humanity can be lost in the pursuit of power before nothing remains but the monster? Orochi's body may be nearly indestructible, but his identity is fragile, erased, repurposed, and ultimately discarded. He's a mirror to the dangers of unchecked transformation, where evolution without restraint becomes the extinction of the self. Orochi's legacy is a chilling one, not one of triumph or tyranny, but of transformation gone too far. He reflects the darkest path of potential, that in the pursuit of evolution, one can lose everything that made them alive. His demise leaves no ideology, no vision, only the echo of a monstrous roar and the silence of what was once a man. We hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for sticking with us right to the end. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to check out the rest of our channel, where we post daily videos featuring all of your favorite anime and manga, including One Punch Man. For now, though, it's time for us to say goodbye. We hope to see you soon in the next one, but until then, stay safe and stay marvelous.